Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name is Claire and this is The Veg Plot Thickens. In today's video I thought I would do a polytunnel tour. It's the end of November now and I thought it would be nice to show people that you can grow things even while it's cold in the UK and at this time of year. Mine is more full than it's ever been, which is not surprising seeing as we only put it up at the end of August. Let's go ahead and I'll show you around. I thought maybe I'll give you a few stats about the polytunnel to start with. We bought this polytunnel ourselves and we also erected it ourselves. At the end of this video I'll link you to the playlist of us installing this. I think there's 6 episodes and it was pretty straightforward, time consuming, a little bit fiddly at times, but you know, we did it, that's the main thing. So a few stats then. We bought it from First Tunnels. It is 20 foot by 12 foot. We have the screw anchor plates for this tunnel. That means we didn't have to dig big holes. We literally just corkscrewed the anchor plates into the ground. Brilliant, because we're not on stony ground here, so they went straight in and it gives a really good firm finish. We have sliding doors at both ends, a single sliding door this end and a double sliding door the other end. We've gone for a 3-bed configuration and there are a few downsides to that, and I think at the end of this video I will talk about some of the regrets that we have with the tunnel already and things that we would do differently if we were buying now, which, considering we've only had it for 3 months, is probably quite startling really. Layout wise, I don't know if you can see that the sun is coming to me from here, so we have the tunnel positioned east to west so that the whole long side of the tunnel is facing south. We took quite a lot of time deciding which way to put it because we were thinking of putting it north to south on our plot, because whilst we know this is getting south sun all day long, it's also in the prevailing wind. It would have been more sheltered from the wind the other way, but would have sat underneath a huge 50-foot plus poplar tree. So we felt that it's probably safer here. There's no trees above it here. There's a quick overview of all of the beds. So if we start this side, this is the north side of the tunnel. There are a few spare little gem lettuces growing on the end here. This little pot here is a weed that was growing in compost that my sister bought, and we've grown it on just to see what it was. It turns out it's oilseed rape. Here I have some endive and lobjoits lettuces. Not actually sure which is which anymore. They're doing okay. This is red chicory. It's got gorgeous leaves on it. Not obviously anticipating eating these until next year now. Broccoli rabe. I grew some of this outside late summer. Absolutely loved it, so I thought I'd try it again in the polytunnel. And I thought if it didn't grow to harvest in here, at least it would be some leaves for the compost. But it's looking pretty healthy. And the leaves are quite tasty too. We move along. I have transplanted lots of chard into the polytunnel for winter. It initially didn't look particularly happy at being moved, but it seems more than happy in here now, and I have harvested a few leaves off of here already. Behind the chard we have garlic growing. It's just a spare few cloves that we put in here just to see, well, compare really the difference growing indoors and outdoors. So that's all of that side done. Won't be as easy to see on this side due to the sun, but this is the south side of the tunnel, and by the door this side we have some mooly radish. I think it's also called daikon, a winter radish. This is almost ready to harvest now, I would have thought. Can't say as I've done a really good deep dive to see what's growing there. We have more broccoli rabe and a few onions planted around the edges. The rabe is bigger on this side, as you can see, which isn't surprising given that this is the south side of the tunnel. Next to the rhubarb we have the curious case of the Thai basil that I'm continually trying to grow over winter. I do put, these are too thick as well, there's two of these, so it's sort of like triple glazed overnight when it's frosty. I just push those together. It's definitely making some progress anyway. Then we have the alpine lettuces, which have really started to take off. Just this last week they've gone from being almost nothing to suddenly putting on some growth, so I'm quite pleased with those, which is completely the opposite to the lobjoits that is next to it, which was planted, or sown should I say, at exactly the same time and really doesn't seem to be particularly happy. But you win some, you lose some, don't you? This little box here was over carrots outside over summer, and when I moved the broccoli into here I just covered it because I've got the doors open, so you can see that this calabrese, should I say, not broccoli, is starting to get a head on it now, so we'll be eating that soon. We've also got some pea shoots. They keep trying to flower, so I have to keep really cutting them right back, but they're definitely thickening up, so they should give us some nice strong plants to put out early spring. And then right on the end of this side we have the carrots that are in the deep cell root trainer. But they're continuing to grow. If I pan out you can see how tall they're getting now. It's really, really warm in here actually. I'm just standing by the thermometer that recorded it down to 0.3 last night. The coldest we've had in here has been minus 5.6. Everything seems to be doing okay when we cover it with fleece overnight. It's currently recording 20 degrees just under in here. In the start of the centre bed we have our spring onions. Definitely didn't plant those densely enough. I will definitely multi-sow next year. Then we have the French breakfast radishes, which we have been harvesting. They're almost finished now really. Next to those, the mustard greens, absolutely love them. They give quite a kick, but look how well they're growing. Some more carrots, should be able to have those early to late spring. Next to these carrots I have the little gem lettuces. They just blow my mind that I am actually growing little gem lettuces in November. They're not hearting up in quite the way that they did outside obviously over summer, but they're looking good, aren't they? While I'm making this video I thought I'd just hop outside here to this back bit of the plot is for my sister, in case you knew and don't know, and she has this mini polytunnel. Now this is from First Tunnels again, but I thought I'd just show you this because maybe you're not allowed to have something this big on your plot, but this type of thing may be okay by your committees. This one is only 5 foot by 4 foot. They do them in 10 foot by 4 foot and 15 foot by 4 foot sizes as well, so you can get plenty of growing space in a polytunnel. It's exactly the same plastic. So it's probably warmer than the main polytunnel, to be honest. We have it clipped down here just in case the wind would take it, but it comes with these legs that you put down and you stand it up, so that gives it a bit of ventilation. I didn't put that one up very well. I couldn't move my arm forward because I was sitting on my coat. And then you lift the lid to work on it. We've hinged it on the short side. We did initially hinge it, I used to have this on my garden, and we had it hinged on the long side, but that meant that I couldn't reach across to get to the plants that were at the back. This way, hinged here, I mean twofold, it now is opening onto the wood chip and not the hardcore, but it does mean that my sister can get around both sides of it. But yeah, we find it brilliant. And she's got some lettuces growing in there, but I mean that's hers, not mine. And then the other thing that we put on it is I put this wire on, which if I leave it open I clip this wire on just in case the wind gets up and starts lifting it. Hopefully it will stop it from banging open and damaging itself. So now I've shown you the polytunnel, perhaps I should talk about the things that I like and dislike about it. It's just the first thing that I have to, when I come onto the plot, I feel like a compulsion to walk into the polytunnel and just to be in here. Feeling, you know, as I say, it's so cold outside at the moment, and yet you're in here and it's 20 degrees. It's like a late spring day in here. It's just good for the soul. You just feel great. You just can forget that it's winter. I kind of wish that we'd got more space down the bottom end to put a great big seat in to just sit and be in here. It's just so nice. So I guess that leads me to my first regret, and that is that I wish that we'd bought a bigger polytunnel. I ummed and ahed for ages over what size to get, and I settled on 20 by 12 foot. My husband told me to go for 25 foot by 14, and I wish I'd listened to him now. Pound for foot measurement, the bigger you go, the cheaper it gets per square foot to put a polytunnel in. So it wasn't that much more expensive to have gone bigger. It just felt really huge at the time. And whilst I'm no issue with the 20 foot in length, I wish I'd gone for 14 foot wide so that this centre bed could have been a lot wider, because I could have reached it easily from both sides. And I suppose that's my biggest regret, that I didn't go 14 foot wide. So my advice would be, if you are putting one in, go for the biggest you can get for the size of space that you have available to you. I know that some of you have issues with your allotment councils not letting you have above a certain size, but if you don't have those restrictions, just buy the biggest you can. You will use it, I promise you, you really will. Other regrets that I have, I guess, are around the layout, which is probably due to the width. I'm not sure how to tie up the crops. We have it skinned so tightly that I can't seem to work out how I'm going to tie into this bar properly. I'm thinking maybe paracord won't rub the plastic, but that is a concern that I have of whatever I have holding things up here. Some people line their things across these bars here. They put horizontal pieces of wood or wire, but the edge of this sits right on the edge of my bed. So do I have things growing up at an angle? I don't know. That's something yet to be decided. Obviously no problem with growing tall things in the middle. I can get to the bars, no problem there, but then I'm a little bit worried about the shade that tall things there will be putting to this bed behind. So we've got to give that some thought, and I'm sure we'll make mistakes next summer and change things the year after. But that is, as I say, that is one of my considerations. If you were buying a hinged version of this, you get a piece of mesh at the top of the door and just the plastic at the bottom. And for some reason, they don't do that with the sliding doors, and it's just plastic both sides. And I nearly did it at the time, and I don't know why I didn't think and just ignore it, but we just fitted it the way that the instructions said to do. But if I was doing it again, and we probably will have to change this next year, I would have these as mesh above, because the only way I can ventilate this polytunnel at the moment is to leave the doors open, and I'd quite like to be able to have ventilation without the doors open, especially obviously over summer. So I think we're going to change this for mesh, and then build another frame that sits inside this with like twizzly turners on to sort of hold it in place for over winter. But yeah, or put that on the inside probably, because it's a bigger recess on the inside. But that's definitely something we're going to do, and I think it's something that if you're building one, ignore that. I think that's a mistake to have it plastic top and bottom. If I was building this tunnel again, we've both said that we would ignore the instructions, sorry First Tunnels, and use more screws in the construction. Everything is nailed on, which means if you need to change the cover or do anything, you're going to damage the wood. It's just not that easy to change things. We don't have an irrigation system in here. First Tunnels only have an option for overhead irrigation when you're purchasing directly from them. And I didn't want to do that because, you know, everything we hear about is not to water the leaves of your tomatoes and things. So I knew I didn't want overhead irrigation in here. And so we didn't go for that. Now, I kind of regret that we didn't put in a soaker hose system. We can do it now, but it would be a bit more tricky and a bit messy, because obviously all the paths and membranes under the paths are laid outside and would need digging up to lay that. So it would have just been a lot easier to have made that decision before we got to this stage. Even if we just brought a tap onto the inside of the polytunnel so we could have decided what to do afterwards, I think that would have been a sensible idea. I don't mind physically coming in and watering. I quite like the idea of being able to check on your plants that way and not miss things going on, or problems, or not missing problems as they arise doing it that way. But I do like to go away in the camper van with my dog, so I do feel a little bit guilty that I'm putting that responsibility on somebody else that may have more important things to do, like run our farm, which is why I'm always dressed like a bag lady. I watch so many YouTube videos and people look so smart and they've got makeup on and they look so glam, and then I'm like literally like a bag lady. But this is the reality of farming life, and maybe if I got to 1,000 subscribers, maybe I'll make an effort then and start dressing smarter. It's a bit like FaceTime. I don't understand video calling because I don't see why I should have to brush my hair just to answer the phone. I'm lazy. There are several companies that do polytunnels. You don't have to go with First Tunnels. There's Northern Tunnels. There is Premier Tunnels. The reason we went with First Tunnels is because they had a discount on if you went over a certain amount of money, you got a 20% discount, which meant that we ended up buying the fruit cage at the same time, which tipped us over that 20%, and we got the fruit cage for significantly cheaper than had we bought them separately or bought the fruit cage from them and the tunnel from somewhere else. But it was definitely their fruit cage that we were interested in. Well, there you have it. That is my polytunnel. I couldn't have picked a more glorious day to show you around the tunnel either, could I?